item today? If not,
not
I'll help you.
actually, I'm not. I just
I'll
got
help you
time
think of
and
one.
I thought, actually, I
Yeah.
got time, so I thought I should debate. Yeah.
I'll brainstorm with you.
Okay, then. So here we go live. So welcome everyone to Meshery development meeting. Today is 10th of May, and we have a good list of agenda today. And if you got an agenda item, feel free to toss it in the meeting minutes. I'll share the link again in the chat. And don't forget to add your name in the attendees. So with that, let's first welcome newcomers. So if you are new to the call, new to the community, feel free to sound off yourself and give a quick introduction. And if you have webcams, feel free to turn them on. It's a good way of communication. So do we have newcomers today? I see one. So Vishrut Agarwal. So hi Vishrut, would like to introduce. Okay, so Vishrut is saying hi in chat.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yep, you are audible.
Yep, you are. Okay, so unfortunately, I do not have my webcam right now, so I won't be able to turn it on. But I am Vishrut. I attended the meeting for layer 5, and I'm very interested in open source, and it is a very good opportunity for me to contribute over here. I'm very excited for that.
That's great. Fantastic. Welcome to the community and the meeting, Vishrut. So Vivek Jha, is this your first time join this call? Would like to introduce? I see your mic is unmuted, but we are not able to hear you. So you might introduce in chat. So with that, if I'm missing anyone, I'll just quickly pause for a second. Do interrupt me or sound off to give a quick introduction. Okay, cool. So looks like we don't have more newcomers to today's call. So with that, let's first move with today's announcements. So first up, let me share the community's highlight for the month of April, March. Let me make it full screen so you all can see it clearly. So this is the community highlights for the month of April and March. And first up, we'll be celebrating the community folks who just received the new community member profiles. And you can visit their profile at layfi.io/community/members. So we, this month, six contributors received their community member profile: Noreen, Usman, Sahil, Amreen, Senali, and Suhail Khan. So congratulations to all of them. And if you want to know how you can get a community member profile at Layer 5, do visit our community handbook. We have a section dedicated to recognitions, which states how you can get a community member profile invite or a GitHub organization invite. So do visit the layfi.io/community/handbook. So next up, we have a new organization invite. So contributors who received organization invites for Layer 5 and Meshery during past couple of weeks. So first up, we have Randy, who worked on websites, I guess. So he's a part of Layer 5 organization. And Ritik Saxena, who is also an intern and creating great designs in the community. So congratulations to Ritik, Randy, Savio, and Usman. So moving on to next, we have one of a great announcement for this meeting is KubeCon Europe 2023 keynote recognition. So Pranav Singh, who is a contributor and a maintainer of Meshery Cloud, made his way with flying colors into the KubeCon keynote stage and presented Playground with him. So a very congratulations to Pranav Singh. So Pranav would like to say quick words on this. How do you feel being at a stage of KubeCon keynote?
Yeah, actually, it's our collective effort wherein like everybody in the community works through towards the same aim, and it feels good that our work is being recognized and everybody is using our project. So it feels good.
That's great. So thank you so much, Pranav. And if anyone hasn't subscribed or signed up for Meshery Playground, make sure you sign up for Meshery Playground. Someone will definitely share a link in chat. That's great. Pranav has shared the link in chat. So moving on to next, we will be announcing a couple of LFX Linux Foundation summer internships for the cohort 2023. And if you want to explore why Meshery is the most popular project for the LFX mentorship program, make sure you apply for that. So Lee will be giving quick words about what all LFX internship we will be announcing. And if you haven't given a GitHub star to our repository, make sure you give a star to each one of the repository, whether it's Layer 5, SMP, or Meshery. And make sure you follow our Layer 5 on and Meshery on social media handles. So here are the quick handles for company, Twitter, LinkedIn, Slack, YouTube, and Discuss Forum, which you can use to quickly open up your questions. So moving on, next we have couple of announcements from Lee, but I guess Lee is away for a minute. So we'll be covering his item in about 2 to 3 minutes. Till then, let's first discuss today's agenda item. Yeah, Abhi.
Yeah. Gaurav, first of all, yeah, Lee just sends a request that he regret that he's away from keyboard, but he told me to, cover this item quickly so that we can move ahead with the agenda items.
Sure, that's great.
And yeah, so okay, so we have the upcoming set of LFX internships coming, and you all are welcome to apply to these. And this is the LFX internship page that is available on Layer 5 website. So you'll see the program timeline here. Like Meshery is very community friendly. It's very great for the newcomers participating, and they learn a lot from the internships, and that's why it is one of the number one. I mean, no, not one of the, but it's number one in the league, and it's been number one for a quite long time. So you are all welcome to apply for the internships. You can go to this website and look for open internships and then apply for the role. Meanwhile, you are very much encouraged to hang out with the current community members, mentors, and all, and discuss the project that you're gonna be working on while applying to the internships. So you can read more about it coming here, LFX internships. What are the projects we have, and what we expect from each interns. There are certain FAQs that you can look into and get your questions cleared. You can always sound off in the public channels and ask any question that you have around internships or anything about Meshery in general. Then another update is, by the way, if you have any confusions right now, you can just sound off in chat or unmute yourself to talk about it. If not, like, I'm moving to the some next set of things. I hope you don't have, so that's why I'll see the chat in a while. Anyways, so these are the some internships that are open. So one is the service mesh performance, and this is the description of the project, what is the expected outcome, and who you have to contact for it, and the upstream issue as well. Like most of the thing is described here in these issues, where you can what the object, you can look into what the objective is. I won't go deep into that right now because that's something that you all have to re-agitate yourself. And then another open position is for Meshery, and it is again about some newer technology that we have introduced recently this month or from the previous month, related to OPA policies and WASM and REGO, and then some Meshery UI permissions framework that we are actively working on. Maybe most probably we would be using the OPA or engines like JavaScript engines like Castle, or like there is some amount of research work as well as some amount of brainstorm required on all the areas, because they're competitively new. And yeah, so that was the second item. And there is a help wanted issue. I think you all should, if you want to get started with it, you can just careers post me. I think yeah, Lee would be better be able to talk about this issue. So I don't have any context on this issue, but I'll just read it and later we'll tell you about it. Other than that, the last update is CNCF TAG Network. So it's right now currently moved into the under Meshery, and you can join the CNCF. There is a TAG Network meeting held bi-weekly or so. So yeah, you can join that meeting as well. And while I'm talking, Lee is again here, so he might extend me on my part, and then yeah, if I said something wrong, he may bash me off as well.
No, that's perfect. Yep, that's exactly what folks should do. Is well, not only learn about the specific details of the issues, but actually, I mean, I'm always as candid as I can possibly be, and I'll say actually, well, I'll say that Gaurav was an LFX intern. Abhi was an LFX intern. Actually, there's a lot of people here who were, or they were, whether it was LFX or a different internship, a lot of people have interned, and that's wonderful. And a lot of people stick around because they're continuing to, well, get fed or feed others. And anyway, a lot of them didn't necessarily work on what was even described, because it kind of doesn't matter. Yeah, we want to achieve the things that are described here. Many of them are harder than a lot of the applicants can take on. So we try to meet the applicant where they are, or the candidate where they are. The reality is, like, it's less about new people applying. There are hundreds and hundreds of people that apply. And like I was talking about being candid, I don't look at a single submission. The submissions have nothing to do with whether or not someone's going to be successful. And damn it, you will be successful in an internship here. We will do everything that we can to support you and make you successful. Because if you're not successful, that means that we're failing. And that's not going to happen. So what we do is we look for folks who are actively engaged, showing up consistently, learning things, helping others, being a positive impact. People who are helping. And all we try to do is support them, whether that's an internship or not. Anyway, I have a lot to say on the subject of internships and suggestions about how people can improve themselves and help others at the same time. But so great. So I'm pleased about programs like LFX programs, because they help support us in supporting contributors. So yeah, but dig into the details for sure. Abhi specifically is listed as a mentor on a few of these, in part because he's working on some of these areas actively. So, and we might even hear about some of them today, I'm not sure. But anyway, there are more internships than we can possibly hand out. We have them going on all the time. They start all the time. They don't start quarterly. They start anytime that we choose for them to start. And when do we choose for them to start? Well, when someone's ready. So come get one. Okay, great. Well, it's nice to have some announcements. Yeah, Abhi.
Yeah, just a final word. Like I forget to discuss about the discuss forum that we have. So Slack messages are temporary, but whatever we discuss here leaves a permanent impact, and it is ready for the other people as well. So if you have any questions related to it, like you can just post it here as well. Sorry, Lee, to cut off you. So yeah, you can continue.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Thanks, Abhi and Lee. So moving ahead, we have first topic from Subedy or Vivek on add design authors on individual page. So either one of you like to present?
Yes, Gaurav, yes. Just a moment. Okay, so this PR was about, adding the name of the publisher on the individual design page on catalog. So earlier we didn't have, like who published the designs on catalog page, but the PR now, it makes all the designs have a name of the publisher or the author who published the design. So like this robot shop sample app was published by Ritik. And if you click on this, it will take us to Ritik's profile on the Meshery cloud. So the PR was about it. And there are two of the observations that I had, and I think Subedy is on the call, and I would like to share it with him. So the first is like not all of these designs have the name of the creator like this one. And the second is so these two are the designs by Gaurav. So if someone has published like more than one design, so what happens is at some of the places the links, this link doesn't take us to Gaurav's profile on the Meshery cloud. Like let me show you just a minute. So it just stops at the dashboard. Okay, and the other one, this one. So it does work, right? So these are two of the observations that like Subedy might want to have some comments on, or like we can follow up later on the Slack. So yes.
Yeah, it seems some of the inconsistencies between the returned user ID from different patterns. So yeah, we'll have to look into it more.
Okay.
I'll look into the workflow and the desired, like the output given by the workflow. Then I'll comment it on the Slack.
Okay, thank you. So that was about the PR, Gaurav, from my side.
Cool. Anyone has quick question for Subedy or Vivek before we move ahead?
I think it's pretty cool. That's pretty neat, guys. You're taking, I think you just showed four independent systems. You were saying people design, create these infrastructure designs in Meshery in one system. They publish them. That review goes through Meshery Cloud, and then that's another system. And then it gets publicly published as a browsable catalog on the Meshery IO website. So that's a third system. And then if you want to look at and open up the catalog item, you can click to do so, and you'll go into the Meshery playground. So a fourth system. So that's pretty neat, guys. I'm going to go check out a few of those designs. As a matter of fact, I think we had one submitted earlier today by Mansa. I don't know if she's on the call, but yeah, so I don't know if it's well understood by everyone that's on the call, but you are encouraged to, well, create new designs. And whether you're really proud of them or you're kind of embarrassed by them, either way, it's an early catalog. So either way, publish your content, put some things out there. It's always comical to me that sometimes people will want to contribute to open source, and then they'll say like, well, it's not ready for others to see it. I'm a little bit surprised because what they mean is, well, I'm embarrassed by others that might see what I've written, or in this case, what I've designed. And well, it's very obvious that like that's never stopped me. So like, yeah, don't be embarrassed about what you've designed. Like, go publish some stuff. Over time, the catalog will be curated and popular content will rise to the top, so to speak. And at least your name will be out there. At least you'll have a few things that you've created. So don't let that hold you back. Cool. Nice work, guys.
Yeah,
Alright.
I wanted to, like Vivek said, that some of the designs didn't have any author. So maybe we would want to include like layer 5 or Meshery team in that, in some placeholder text instead of a blank empty space. Layer 5 or Meshery team would be great, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, Meshery authors, yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha. So let's move to next item. So Azan has a couple of good items. So Azan would like to share.
Yeah. So this is a good problem to have, but yeah, we have more than 160 open PRs for Meshery organization, like all across in different repos. Okay, some are like quite outdated, and we are looking for volunteers. If you see a PR that you can, you see that it's stale and you think that you can do it, like just comment on it, and one of us is going to get to it and assign you. Other than that, I've been selfish and I've added a couple of my stuck PRs here. One is out of context adapter fixes. Okay, so this fixes a possible data race and a ping test issue. Like if the it's not really out of context adapter, it's out of context
Operator.
cluster. Like the cluster, the Meshery, when Meshery is not deployed in cluster, when Meshery is deployed out of context, it's like I'll edit this name. This name is just confusing. Okay, so this fixes two things. It's a data race and a timeout error. Okay, I have increased the timeout to 15 seconds. So this fixes two things, but it's still stuck. If Antoinette or Ashish are here, like you guys could check this one out. Okay. Moving on.
Azan,
Yeah.
real fast.
Mhm.
Do the sleep that we have in there or the timeout that we have in here, this is, oh boy, we always want to, it's always desirable to avoid such a situation. I wonder if a little bit of brainstorming right here might help. We're waiting for this particular operation is waiting for an adapter to deploy and come alive, or just waiting for waiting
This
for it to
one
come alive.
pings the cluster to check whether it's live or not.
I see.
Pings the
Okay.
Kubernetes cluster. Yeah.
And okay, can you?
This was happening with me. Okay, when I used Minikube, this doesn't happen. But when I had a cluster on DigitalOcean, okay, this kept on happening to me. That context deadline exceeded. Okay, so I used to like develop with this edit.
Huh. Yeah.
So this is quite a thing that if you have a slow network or the cluster is lying behind a VPN, then you're going to have this issue frequently.
Yeah, I wonder if we might do like a 3-second timeout or like a 5-second, like beyond that, like the user, we don't offer the user an indication that I don't think we do, maybe we do, and that an ad hoc connectivity test is in progress. And so like, hey, wait up to 15 seconds. And then I know if I were a user, I guess since I'm an impatient user, I'd probably click it a few times in that 15 seconds and then be flooded with.
Quite honestly, I took 15 are kind of an arbitrary number, but it does work, and like there is no harm in keeping a higher number, because if it's lower, then it's obviously going to return faster. Like it's not going to wait for 15 seconds to return if we have put a 15-second timeout. Yeah,
I don't know. We should. I'd like to think about this one a little bit more. It's an unhealthy situation in which Meshery can't speak to, like it takes 15 seconds to get a response from a Kubernetes cluster. It might be that we should be like after 5 seconds or something, while we might time out at 15, after 5 seconds, we might want to return a bit of information that says, hey, your cluster is available, although it's in such an environment that we couldn't necessarily guarantee the delivery of events that come back for it or solid communication, or like I don't know that it's acceptable, like that we would expect that our systems would continue to interface well with it. At minimum, the user should be informed that there is a delay or that there is some slowness because, well, it'll affect the UX a fair bit. That amount of time. Something for us to think about. I don't know that does anybody else have thoughts on this? One of the things that I'm suggesting is that there's some cutoff line by which the deployment is in an acceptable, like healthy range. Azan, you might have more comments, but also I wonder if others do as well.
By the way, I have a question. So this discovery stage, like when it is called up, it's called when adapter just starts, right? And it wants to connect with Kubernetes.
Like I know the title is misleading. This doesn't have anything to do with the adapter. Even if there are no adapters, like it's going to check for the cluster.
Okay, when does it check it? Like that's a question.
Like when the server starts. I think like when the server starts and there is a context there. Okay, if there is a context there, then it's going to try. Or if you add a context, then it's going to try. If you try to add a context, then it's going to try.
What about when you click on the Kubernetes chip in the UI?
No, this is like that will work only if it's already added. Like it won't add if this timeout fails.
Yep. But once it's already added, is this the same? We should be using the same connectivity test. When
I'll have to check on that, whether this exact same function is used or not.
Okay. If it isn't, we probably want to consolidate, because unless there's a use case for.
By the way, if it just starts on the server boot up, like it's fine to wait for 15 seconds because there will be some. By the way, it's not wait, so it's a timeout. So the response could return anytime, even in the 1 second delay, right? So to me, I think if the server, I mean, if it just called once when the server is there, server boots up. So even 15-second timer doesn't sounds bad, because there will be some delay when you open the server and start the UI. You will have to log in and do all kind of stuff that you do. Meanwhile, once it is ready, like you won't be, it's always once it is ready, you are always ready to use it anytime without this timeout. So, but adding context from the UI, it can be. It's just a very long time, 15-second getting the response from the REST API and waiting for the 15-second, up to 15-second, I would say. In the worst case scenario, it would be like very long wait timeout. But it's again gives a security whether, you will always, get the data even after better than 1 second, I would say. That
Okay. So what I'm noting is reduce this timeout, okay, to like 5 seconds. Okay, the reduction of this timeout to 5 seconds, and notifying the user even if the cluster responds after the timeout.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. If you have any other
what was it? Yeah, the 5 seconds sounds about right. It's in like, even let's say it took I missed the second part of what you said. You said if it goes over 5 seconds, still we
inform the user that your cluster did respond. It just responded, too late. Yeah,
that's ideal. Like, let's say it took a minute for the cluster to respond back. But that's good information. Like it still did ping it. It still could communicate with it. So Meshery could connect. But you can imagine after 20 seconds or 30 seconds, or when you get up toward a minute or even 2 minutes, it's like, gosh, we really should let the user know, hey, there's something amiss here. Packets are not going where they're supposed to, or it's raining outside and your Wi-Fi is, or whatever the, So yeah, it's always fun to give dramatic examples. Oh, a 3-minute timeout. Is it okay if it's a 3-minute? And then it becomes a little more evident that like, oh, okay. So there's some relative scale by which, and yes, if we're getting, it is use case specific or like flow specific, that 5 seconds would be an issue or 15 seconds would be like where that line is. Because to Abhi's point, hey, if it's a background task, gosh, how time critical really is that? Does that, what other, and it's less about, in this case, since it's a background task, it's less about it being time critical from a UX perspective and more being indicative of underlying problems that Meshery might have ongoing with the with management of that cluster. And so, yeah, it might be that you actually leave a 15-second timeout, like you leave a long timeout, but to what you had said is on that you do have these other markers, like if it's after 5 seconds, maybe it's a 30-second timeout. So it's like, if it's after 5 seconds, we probably add a little note, like, if it's after 15, it's like, look, this is a use at your own risk, or, this eventually when we get into like a state machine for connections and how we're tracking the status of connections, we might add, something like it's in a degraded state. And then that way we can indicate to the user that like, hey, because it would be one thing if we indicated to the user in this transitory moment that, and we gave them a warning back, like, hey, there could be an issue here. They're likely to forget about it 10 minutes later. And as they're like, yeah, okay, I guess there's an issue or something. And then they're using Meshery and interfacing with the cluster. And they're like, well, Meshery sucks. Like, why isn't it responding? Why isn't it? What's Meshery's problem? It's like, wait. We told you it was the cluster, but since we're not tracking state of the connection, we're not actively informing you that it's degraded. So it's natural to blame Meshery. It's almost a perpetual cross to bear for management software. For any underlying, the health problems of any underlying systems are extremely easy to blame on the management software, because that's the perspective from which you're interfacing with the infrastructure is through the management software. And so if the infrastructure isn't doing what it's supposed to, and the management software isn't surfacing that information, well, then it must be Meshery's fault. So this is something of a CYA as well. I don't know if you guys, if everybody has that.
I didn't get the reference.
Okay.
But, yeah. But I'm going to change this to 5, and I'm going to raise another issue. If anyone from the community wants to pick it up to change this context to do, okay, and this timeout to use it to inform the user, like send an event back to the user that your cluster is here, but it's responding too late. I can do that myself too, but let's see if someone would want to do that. Fine.
It sounds great. You'll end up opening up an issue that describes a couple of enhancements, sounds like. And 2 of the enhancements are, one is to ensure that all connectivity tests between Meshery and Kubernetes are reusing the same health test, because we'll only undo ourselves if we're identifying health in different ways. So we want it to be consistent. It's Meshery, and so this in context or in concept should come from MeshKit. Why would that be? Well, because people ask for the health of a deployment using Meshery CTL as well. Meshery CTL system check. Meshery CTL asks about the health of the Kubernetes class. So does Meshery server. Anyway, so there'll be a couple of enhancements, like one, making sure that we have common functions that we're using. Two, what you were about to describe about the warnings or the information.
Okay. So moving on to the next issue after spending most of the time on the first one. Yeah, this one is by Ashish. I don't know if Ashish is here or not, but this one has last been updated like a month ago. I don't know what's the status of this. Like there is no update on this for a month.
I can just give the context over this PR. There are some remaining items that still has to be tracked. Lee knows better about it.
So Ashish isn't on at the moment, but this is this is critically needed. This is something that will surprise users of Meshery if this functionality isn't present. People will create designs and expect to be able to deploy any of their designs. And not all Kubernetes, sometimes, in order to get a design or an infrastructure configuration fully deployed, sometimes that means deploying controllers and deploying operators. Cool. So we should just, we gotta find a way to move that one forward. I'll take that one in terms of making sure it moves forward.
Okay. And moving on to this, support for provisioning Meshery adapters in Kubernetes. So I do need assistance, like as we discussed last time, and I discussed with Ashish as well. I do need assistance in doing this, because like if I try to do this custom resource change by myself, I'm going to I know that I'm going to end up, spending the entire week on analyzing the entire pipeline of how this is changed and deployed. Because this same method, the same method is going to be used for, we discussed the mesh sync. Let me give the context to everyone else. We are going to change, we are going to update mesh sync has to be dynamic with what updates we want from it. Currently, it floods with all the updates, everything all at once. So we are adding the ability to change it dynamically, what we want to inform about and what we want to, ignore. And it's going to use the same method. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, what we might want to do is schedule a public meeting with, or on this particular topic with Ashish, and we'll put it on the community calendar so anybody that wants to can join. But perhaps it would be kind of a working meeting to get a skeleton up sort of fairly quickly about the approach and how a bit of a working meeting in collaboration with Ashish Tiwari on doing that. Seems like a good way to break it, move it forward. We'll get Abdullah and you and anyone else who's interested, but on that specific topic, because it's just an area of it's like you were just saying, it's unfamiliar to you at the moment. You can do it. It would take longer. It would be helpful if we greased the wheels, and so yeah. That's great.
There is another kind of stale issue. It has been off for a couple of weeks, and I would like to put that up for any volunteers if they want to check it out. Let me bring that one up. It's like an easy thing. It's about a Helm logo in dark mode. Let me share the link to this thing.
Yeah, Azan, I guess you can share the link in chat and let's take a review on that.
Hmm.
Okay, then thanks for the update, Azan. So moving on, next we have schema-driven development in MeshKit from Lee. So Lee would like to give an overview on this topic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, kind of. People have been having to listen to me. I am going to ask Abhi a question, and then maybe Abhi can speak to it a little bit more. Maybe if Uzair is on. Let's see if he is. So there's an open PR. Abhi is helping move the Meshery forward with use of, well, with an integration of open policy agent. And he's written a couple of initial Rego policies or OPA policies. And in doing so, he needs to create a Golang struct for defining policies, Rego policies they'll have. And so we have been, as a project, shifting toward schema-driven development, if we can coin a new phrase. And that is to say that there's an open API schema that can be written about each of the resources that Meshery, each of the objects inside of Meshery's internal object model. So if Meshery is to track, define, track, and evaluate policies, like a policy of is the user Lee allowed to deploy to that cluster? Well, you can write a policy that defines that. And we want to be schema-driven in our approach. And so that's really my question here.
Yeah. So the structure that you're seeing here is a relation object. I mean, the structure you're seeing here is the response we are expecting. So this is exactly the schema that we want in our response. Just this schema is not written in the JavaScript object notation, but it is written in the form of Golang struct. But it is just doing the same thing for us, that is schema-driven development. And right now, if you see the comment above, I have commented some things. Yeah, so the destination object name, source ID, source name are very relevant to what we will be using on the front end. And the port is a map string interface, which is exactly the JSON that we require to, extract the information from the policy. So that the port itself is directly coming from the schema that we have defined in our container schema, in the models that we register or in the components that we register. So it is coming exactly in that manner, and we are not anyway manipulating that thing. So it is correctly or properly obeying the schema that we have already written somewhere for the components that we have. And other than that, the other 4 constructs are something that is very required for our front end to use, and it's not written anywhere in the schema in any form. So we have defined that. So following that, there is a mix of data, following the schema-driven development, again here in this example, and doing all the things that you are expecting. Just it's not in the JavaScript, but it's in the Golang struct format.
Yeah, is Uzair on?
No.
No. Okay. Pranav, you might be able to speak to this then.
Yeah, actually, I think the ask is that I totally understand that you are referring that we are using specific construct in the backend and we are not changing it throughout the code, but the ask is to use Open API to define the construct so that when we can use that for generating structs, we can auto generate our structs. We can also use that for documentation purpose. And so that's the thing which I think Lee is pointing out. So we need to actually define the same struct in the form of Open API. So it would be in the form of YAML file, not in the form of .co file. So that's the thing. And if we use the same kind of generator throughout our different projects, whether it's Meshery, MeshKit Cloud, or MeshKit, then it's our code would be more consistent throughout different projects. So that's the ask, I think.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, Abhi, I think you're so close. Or like, there's very little of what you've done inside of the PR that would necessarily need to change. You are like conceptually very aligned with the goal. I think it's probably the starting point that's slightly different. And so we'll catch up a bit in Slack, or we'll, about, yeah. But
Yeah, for that, like, we have to think about like how we would be approaching the problem and how we would be transpiling into Rego code and Golang struct to Rego and all that thing. So yeah, there is
Yeah.
a bit of design spec needed as well. So definitely we can't
Well,
cover it in this call.
Oh yeah, there's one thing, like the crux of what I'm highlighting is that wherever we're defining structs, that we want to have an open API schema that defines that resource, and when that defines that resource in a JSON schema, in an open API schema, and then when we get that struct, or when we get that representation in Golang, that we use a generator, like this open API Golang generator, to create the struct. It becomes a matter of process and consistency. That's the crux, I think, of what I'm trying to highlight.
Okay, during compile time or not? Right.
Yeah, no, beforehand.
Yeah, that's what compile time is. Okay, yeah.
All right, good. That was my item.
So let's move to next item. That's by Abhi only.
Yeah, just beta free arrangement. Yeah. So yeah, I would be talking about mesh model policy evaluation, the engine setup and how we do it. So I have prepared one talk for it. I'll make it big so that everyone can see it. Yeah, so we are talking about context-aware relationship for applications. So applications can be your Helm chart, your Kubernetes manifest, or your Docker composed, all written in the YAML. What you do is like you upload your application through the Meshery UI, and then that application is converted to design file format, right? So that's what we have until now. Like up until now, we just convert your application into design file format and save it on the disk, and that's what we are doing. But we have added some extra, we have extended this process and added the evaluation engine itself also, after your design file is converted to, your application is converted to our Meshery construct, which is design file format. So we have some policies written in the rego.rego files in one of the directory. So in that directory, any policies that you have written, like any number of files that you have written, will be picked from the file system, and it would be compiled into one module or bundle, we call it on the Rego. And you will send a query like what you want to query. For example, there could be a query for network relationship, there could be a query for hierarchical relationship, there could be query for any number of extended relationship as well in the future. So you apply that query and it will just run all the policies that we have we have placed in that file, and it will, with the Rego evaluation engine and OPA, it will throw out some JSON response that will contain all the information that we have found from the data you have given. The data is definitely the design file form, this design file or a application, and the policies that your data, that is design file, has been evaluated upon. So it will give the JSON. Now the JSON that we have can be used in two ways. It can be used directly by the clients like MeshMap to use that construct and do any kind of stuff with it, or it can be used by the application file itself. Like it could be used as a process of the conversion from your Kubernetes manifest to design file, where this would act as an end terminal stage, where all the relationship that we have evaluated thus far will be put in your application file, and now it will be saved on the disk. So your application is just not your application. it is a design file with all the context aware relationship that is already evaluated for that thing. And now it is saved on the disk. So whenever you open the design file from any client you have, like you can use Meshery CTL, mesh map, or the other Meshery UI interface that you have. So all these things, all these 3 clients or any clients that we add in future will be, take the use of take the use of context aware relationship, and take the use of policies and Rigo evaluation engine, and help establishing relationship between different components inside your application. So this way you will see a relation between all the components that we have, how these components are connected to each other. When you're seeing through the YAML, you are just seeing the text, and it's very hard to see like how the data is flowing, what things are related, what things are not. But with this, like you will be better understood. You'll understand it better, like how different components of your application that you're uploading are connected to each other, and how they behave as a single unit, and later deployed as your personal application or anything like that. So that was something about it. Any questions?
If anyone understands that, I'll be impressed. Nothing to do with how Abhi has documented it, just that I don't know if everybody has context.
Sorry, hello. I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to ask, what does Rigo evaluation engine, what does it do?
Okay, Rigo evaluation engine, what does it do, right?
Yes.
So yeah. So Rigo evaluation, I mean, we write some policies, right? So whenever you upload an application, like if you whenever you upload a Kubernetes manifest, you have bunch of number of components that are connected to each other, but you can't just see them directly. So what policies and the Rigo evaluation engine does it, like it will kind of see through the relationships, like how these different constructs are related, and how they will see like how it will evaluate that these 2 components are related to each other, and these 2 are not, or whatnot. So they will do it by the policies that we write. So policies are just the set of rules that will define like how the 2 constructs are similar to each other, and how the 2 constructs are connected to each other. And the policies are that's what Rigo evaluation engine does, that based upon the policies that you have written, it will connect different things that you have as a data.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yeah,
I had a quick question. Sorry,
go ahead.
I was asking, like, what does save on disk mean? Does it mean that saving in database, or does it mean saving as a file?
Yeah, I mean that may be problem on my part. So save on disk is exactly same as saving the application. I mean, saving the file on database. So probably I'll change that term. Just like we do it right now, that's the exactly same thing. Just saving it somewhere in the database or in the file system. Yeah. Any other question?
All right. I don't think anyone has more questions.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, then Gaurav, just 1 minute.
Sure.
Sorry. Yeah, so that was the a visual diagram of what we do, and that is someone asked about how policies work and all. So this is the policy file format that we have. It is quite human readable. It's not like very dense JSON written somewhere, or a Golang file. So what's good thing about Rigo is that it is much more human readable than any other policy evaluation engine. So you may look through it as well and see how we are evaluating the policies.
Please, can you send the pull request, the link?
Yeah,
please?
Yeah. I'll send it just after
Okay.
I'll
okay.
stop now.
Thanks.
Yeah, and then I would also say like this, the policy that you are seeing here is not in its final format. Like we would be moving to much more generic in nature, so that we can use one policy across different set of rules, and one policy to evaluate, different queries that we provide. So we are yet to move to an advanced version of Rego. So I think we'll do it by, just writing more and more Rego. So yeah, so there are some comments by Ashish, and so most of them are resolved. So the common functionality that we would be using across all the policy behaviors and all is, put in the MeshKit. There was also a problem where there is just use of one file at a time. So now that thing is also resolved. So yesterday I asked a question in the OPA community and they replied pretty quickly. And that helped us in establishing, that helps us in going to a stage where you will be dynamically adding any files into the Meshery server folder, policies folder, and it will be picked up every time you will ask for the evaluation. So for example, your Meshery server is up and you just decided to add another policy of your choice. So you will just add that policy in that folder and it will be picked up. Like it's not something that is compiled, that is, that runs on compile time. It is evaluated at runtime, and that's, adds some dynamicity in our system as well while evaluating all the policies that we have. So these are the 2 points that I had to, discuss.
Cool. Thanks, Abhi. So moving on, next, we still have 2 minutes. So Usman would like to cover your item.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I have been facing a blocker on MeshModel browser. And let me share my progress on the MeshModel browser first. So here's the UI for the MeshModel browser. I've been displaying models, components, and relationships. This pagination happens on the server side and search happens on the client side. And the blocker that I'm facing is that I do not have an endpoint that returns all the relationships across all models. The second blocker that I am facing, I don't get the total count of the results of models and components across all models. So I opened up this issue last Friday and no one is working on it yet. So what we need is that for every top level API endpoint, we need to return resource count and an attribute for searching and pagination. Furthermore, we need an endpoint that returns relationships across all models. So this isn't a big task; it's a small issue. So I'll be pasting the issue in the chat if anyone wants to take it up.
Yep, that particular issue really is really is a straightforward Meshery server Golang based enhancement. It is a good one for those who are looking to get deeper into Meshery server. So Meshery server has 2 different types of APIs. One is GraphQL based, the other one is REST based. The API that Usman was just highlighting, the MeshModel API, is REST based. There are a number of standard features that should be part of a common substrate for each REST API resource. Things like pagination, search, filter, total count of the number of resources. Those features should be pretty universal to each API resource. And I see you've got count, search, and pagination list all 3 of those listed here. And so the MeshModel API is fairly well designed, fairly well documented. It does support search. It does support pagination. It doesn't quite do it to the extent that Usman's use case needs it to do. And so Yeah, it's a great place to jump in.
Yeah, so most of the resources do support pagination search, but for some of the endpoints do not support search. I saw that in the documentation. So there's a few things that need to be worked on.
And some of them inside of the MeshModel endpoints, some of them don't support search.
Yeah, for specific resource. Yeah.
I see. Got you. All right, so Philip comes to mind as well. Like this is one of those needs that the project has here and now. It's relatively small, Golang based. So for my part, I'm looking for a volunteer. I'm looking for someone to support as they go to do this. Any takers? You guys ever go on like a first date? You sort of have that awkward silence. You're kind of sitting there, sort of like, oh, there's Abdullah. Abdullah already spoke up. Okay. You broke the ice. Good.
Abdullah, can you comment on the issue so that I can assign it to you?
Sure, I'll do that.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Usman. So we are 3 minutes over today and we missed a couple of items. So if anyone needs feedback on any of these items, make sure you sound off on Slack or on GitHub. So with that, let's call it a wrap. So you all can catch the recording of today's Meshery development meeting on Layer 5 YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe it. And that's all for today. So thank you all for joining today's Meshery development meeting. We'll meet you next week, same time, same place. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks, Gaurav. Wow.